Hi, this is Dr. Mike Yuen. How to get the most from your Tai Chi and Qigong practice? Simple as this question may sound, it's taken 7 months of producing videos on the subject matter, being in conversation with experienced Tai Chi teachers and practitioners throughout the world to create the foundation to discuss it. For me, it's a coming around to a full circle, having waited 36 years before re-emerging on the Tai Chi scene. During these 36 years, I've been doing other Chinese research. I had to wait for the sign coming through enough to be able to offer a solution to what I saw to be the biggest challenges facing Tai Chi and Qigong practitioners. The challenge is not having so much to do with one's love for the practice or receiving ordinary benefits. But as I've mentioned in the earliest videos, I feel a responsibility, given the remarkable teachers and teachings I've come across, to build a bridge to help modern seekers in both Asia and the West to really appreciate and be able to achieve the highest attainments from these practices at the deepest level. My time away from Tai Chi has not been idle. I always knew that I'd need to come back, although it was completely unclear how I would do so. But Tai Chi, since I was young, made too deep an impression and had too many profound benefits to my life to just let go and walk away from. And then there's the obligation I feel to the Yang family and its descendants, not only to promote it or to popularize it, but upon feeling that it hasn't reached its full potential yet, to see what I can do to enhance its modern practice, to bring China's Guobao, China's country's treasure, to its full glory. But not just a personal glory for a group of people, but to elevate Yang Tai Chi Chuan in particular, and the secrets that are held within to improve the lives of people to its fullest potential. So a little history on the 4 powers and 3 masteries framework that I developed, that I'm proposing you can adopt as a meta framework to house your Tai Chi practice in. The key takeaway, the key benefit that you gain from the 4 powers and 3 masteries framework is the infusion of increased self-awareness surrounding your practice. You already have your practice, and behind that practice is a certain culture of beliefs, relationships, social organization with the teacher, and so forth. And this framework is designed to help you filter out the no longer useful aspects, we might call it outdated aspects of this culture. And why is this important? Because bottled up in the culture underlying the skills that you're cultivating is an enormous treasure trove of creative energy that is being held. The general human condition is that we are using just a small portion of our full potential in everything we do. This framework can be applied to all traditional practices. If the 4 powers and 3 masteries is able to help you rework your meta perspective on your practice, you'll find tremendous gain and motivation to use it even more. So what is it and how does it work? If you're here watching or listening to this video, you've already accomplished quite a bit in your life, that you've succeeded in mastering what I call multitasking performance lifestyle. That's the baseline lifestyle in order to get along well in the world. It's basically the ability to plan out your schedule and to do things in a somewhat organized fashion to fulfill all the material obligations that you need to get along on a daily basis. But as we know, especially with the dawning of the digital age and the increased quickening or speed with which information is being processed, is that our ability to manage stress is becoming more and more challenged than in the old days when life was more simple. We suffer from information overload, but given social media and the exponential increase in remote relating to people, which is not accounted for in the old paradigm, we also suffer from emotional overwhelm. So it's because of this information overload and emotional overwhelm that we need a new meta framework. We need to reframe our concept of life. And Taiji Chuan being a very powerful method of not only stress management and health, which is the being aspect of Tai Chi that health-oriented folks mainly focus on, but there's also the becoming potential of Taiji Chuan practice. In this respect, Taiji Chuan is a superior means of developing personal power and transforming yourself to acquire extraordinary skills that I described were possessed by Grandmaster Yang Shoujung. So on the one hand, we're all by default in multitasking performance lifestyle mode. Based on my studies of human actualization, I came up with another term called one-effort living lifestyle. If you imagine a threefold being, on the left would be your multitasking performance lifestyle, which we all lead. And on the far right, there's the one-effort living lifestyle, where essentially you gain the ability to manage your life in a way where you are in the center of the vortex. And as such, as you become more proficient in the one-effort living lifestyle, it's a matter of doing a few things to get a lot of things done. So the question in the three masteries is, what is that activity that lies in between the multitasking and the one-effort living? This position in the middle, this third mastery, is the four powers. So let's switch over to the four powers and see how your practice of Taiji Chuan and Qigong fit into that. And please understand that this framework has a science behind it. So it's worthy of much more dialogue beyond this summary that I'm able to offer here. Of the four powers, there's two that are yin or hidden in your life, and there's two that are yang, that are visible in your life. First, for the two invisible activities, they're conducted behind the scenes and bear their fruit in an indirect way. One is your biological material legacy, that is what you leave behind in the world. If your parents, they would be your children, for example. Or if you've built a house, it would be that house or all the material belongings or possessions that you leave behind. And the second would be your spiritual legacy. That is based on what beliefs you end up holding in your life. Not necessarily that people know about. There could be maybe your children or the people close to you have been influenced by your beliefs, but they're not material in nature, but they have to do with your beliefs about your existence, about the mysteries of the intangibles of life. It's what you leave behind that feeds the human spirit. And as cultivators, each of our intentions is to elevate, to leave behind a spiritual legacy that leaves a positive imprint in the world. So we have our biological and material legacy, which is a power, and we have our spiritual legacy, which is a power. Now switching over to the yang, or the two tangible powers, we have a power that belongs to our inner life, and then a power that belongs to our outer life. Now this is where it becomes interesting. Based on my research, Tai Chi Chuan and practices like it that are very strong in developing the intentional aspect of life, the personal power, the ability to meet life and to be effective in dealing with life. Here's where all the profound Tai Chi principles come into play: yielding, following, not letting go, and neutralizing, and so forth. But there's strategies that you need power for. So to become proficient in Tai Chi Chuan should ostensibly make you a more effective human being. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case, especially if your focus is not a balanced one. But nonetheless, of the four powers, Tai Chi Chuan sits as a prime example of a method that can lead to outer mastery. And finally, there's the inner mastery, which comprises the inner life of a person. And this has been where the main focus of my research. My main reference for this inquiry was the Bagua Tren, or the 8 trigrams tradition that I inherited as a 5th generation lineage holder. What's key about this is that whereas our outer life is based on form, our inner life is formless. So how is it that a discipline can fulfill this role for the formless inner life? I was fortunate that in this particular Bagua lineage, there were 2 versions that I learned, one coming from men and the other coming from women. In fact, it's the women's reality, which is an invisible reality based on the teachings of this lineage of women, that I've extracted from the original system upon recognizing that it was a complete system of science and character reading and medicine unto itself, different from any language that I had known, in terms of just a different fundamental take on reality that is really true to the idea of yin. If yang is something visible, outer, then this system was invisible and inner. Getting in touch with your inner body, that's done in a passive way, that makes up the 4th power. It is the benefits that come from rest compared to action that self-awareness, science, practice, and meditation can come in, that can help balance and regulate any side effects from your accruing power through the Tai Chi Chuan and the Qigong. I hesitate to go much further here because it's such a deep inquiry, but I wanted to just give you a big picture of where we're going in this advanced Yang Tai Chi corrections. It still holds Grandmaster Yang Shouzhong's advanced corrections at the center. But in order for you to be able to handle that power, to handle the catalytic effect it could have on your life, you need to have a new meta framework that reflects not only the traditional wisdom, but also takes into account all the modern challenges and makes use of all the modern tools that we have. Well, that's all I have to say today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment, join the free Facebook private group on the Advanced Yang Tai Chi Corrections. I look forward to hearing your impressions, answering questions, continuing to bring the Chinese practices to its full recognition and full potential. This is Dr. Mike Yuen. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again. Take care.